Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another Second Look Bible study, where a second look always takes you deeper into God's Word. We are working our way through the Old Testament, and it's my desire to help you understand how it all fits together. And we've been using an outline, which we'll take a look at in a few moments, but today's lesson is going to focus on the book of Second Kings. Second Kings. Now, I have asked a series of questions for the last few lessons, and so I want to do that again here. Let me pull up my phone and see who, if anybody, has joined us live today. Most people watch after the fact, and if that's you, welcome. I'm glad you're here as well. And I want you to participate. Feel free to answer the questions and place everything in the comments, and I can kind of keep track of you during that. So I'll pull it up here real quick. I see a couple of comments here already. I see Jackie Snyder is with us. I see Jeff Pugh is here. I see Robin Sharkey is also watching. Welcome, guys. I'm glad that you're here. So here's your quiz for the day, our 5 out of 5. Are you ready? All right. Question number 1. Which book of the Old Testament is all about offerings and feasts? Offerings and feasts. Which book of the Old Testament is about offerings and feasts? If you remember the cartoon picture, that ought to help. Question number 2 is which book of the Old Testament is a love story? All right? It's a love story. Tell me the name of that book. That's number 2. Question number 3 is who was the second king of Israel? Who was the second king of Israel? Question number 4. What are the 3 W's that led to Solomon's downfall? What are the 3 W's that led to Solomon's downfall? And finally, question number 5. After whose death was the nation of Israel divided into 2 kingdoms? After whose death was the nation of Israel divided into 2 kingdoms? All right, let's see if anybody is answering the questions here. I hope they are. I see some thumbs up that are coming this way. Here's the answers that reflect our questions. Number 1, what book is about offerings and feasts? That was the book of Leviticus, Leviticus, if you remember the picture, and it's about offerings and feasts, sacrificial offerings, as well as days of celebration, and it helped the people understand how that an unholy people could approach a holy God. Question number 2 is which book is a love story? Love story. And the love story is the book of Ruth. All right, the book of Ruth was the love story. Question number 3, who is the second king of Israel? I see a number of you have responded, and the answer to that is David was the second king of Israel. Now, question number 4, a little more difficult. What are the 3 W's that led to Solomon's downfall? The 3 W's. All right. The first was his wisdom. The second was his wealth. And the third was women. Now, I understand the wisdom probably didn't lead to his downfall, but those were the 3 primary characteristics of Solomon. Wisdom, wealth, and women. And the wealth and the women led him away from God. If you remember, Solomon had a half a heart for God. And then question number 5. After whose death was the nation of Israel divided into 2 kingdoms? That is Solomon. After Solomon's death, the kingdom was divided into 2 kingdoms. All right, let's jump into our study for today. Our outline looks like this. We started with the creation of the universe and the creation of the nation of Israel through the patriarchs. We went through the exodus from Egypt and the giving of the law and the wandering in the wilderness and the second giving of the law in Deuteronomy. Didn't have my phone turned down. Then we have the conquest of Israel. That was Joshua. General Joshua conquered the land. And then after that, we have the book of Judges. Following Moses and Joshua, there were a series of judges, 10 judges in total, that led the land in the book of Judges. We are now in the middle of the kingdom section of the Old Testament. You'll see the crown there, and underneath the crown we have 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, and 1st and 2nd Chronicles. So let's take a quick look at each of these books. Here was the picture we used for 1st Samuel, 1 sand mule. See the sand mule? And there is a king with his foot on the sand mule, and that's the first king of Israel, King Saul. The main thing, and again, you see the saw in his hand, that reminds you of Saul, King Saul. And the most important thing to note is that he had no heart for God. The second book following that is the book of 2nd Samuel. In this picture, you have 2 sand mules, and there's a king sitting in the middle of those sand mules. We know that's King David because of the harp and the slingshot by his side. David was a man after God's own heart, and we see that instead of having no heart for God, he had a whole heart for God. Didn't mean that he was perfect, but again, he was the man after God's own heart. The next book is the book of 1st Kings. The book of 1st Kings is all about the 3rd king of Israel, which is Solomon. You notice there the 3 W's, wisdom, women, and wealth. The thing you might notice about Solomon is he has a half a heart for God. He starts out really well, but eventually the women, the wealth goes to his head, and he begins to do things that are not pleasing to God. You will notice that he's holding a bag of money, and that bag of money is split. All right? That's to remind us that the kingdom is going to be split in 2 upon his death. And that's what's going to bring us to the book of 2nd Kings. Here's our picture of 2nd Kings. You notice 2 kings in the picture. They're sitting on an island or an isle, and you notice that it is an exile. See the palm trees forming the X? That's because the book of 2nd Kings is all about the exile of God's people. We'll get into detail on that here in just a few moments. But Solomon had a half a heart for God, and when we reach the book of 2nd Kings, we're going to find that most of the kings are going to be evil. Now, I will tell you that there were 19 kings of Israel. That's the northern kingdom. Upon Solomon's death, you remember the kingdom was divided into 2. We had Jeroboam and Rehoboam, and the king of the northern tribes, they went away from God. That was 10 of the tribes. They took the name Israel. The southern kingdom took the name Judah because it was primarily their land, Judah's land and Benjamin's land. And Solomon's son ruled over the southern kingdom. Most of the kings in each of these two divisions were evil. Well, I want to look real quickly at the outline. And the outline for the book of Kings is that two nations become none. If you remember 1 Kings, we had one nation becoming two nations. In 2 Kings, two nations become no nations because they're both taken into exile. Chapters 1 through 8 deal with Elisha in 2 Kings, and chapters 9 through 25 talk about all of the kings of Israel and Judah. Again, 19 kings of Israel. All of the kings of Israel were evil. There were 20 kings of Judah, all of them from the line of David. And there were only 8 good kings out of 20. All right? And to be very honest with you, even some of these good kings kind of slipped into sin in the latter part of their life. The author of 2 Kings is believed to be Jeremiah, among several others. And the basic theme is the consequence of spiritual rebellion and the unwavering faithfulness of God amidst the rise and fall of Israel and Judah. The big picture is the exile of both the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah. Now, in addition to all of this, we have a listing, and I provided this for you on Facebook, and it was a listing of all of the northern kings. And it's kind of hard to see this particular picture, but all the kings of Israel from Jeroboam down through Hoshea are all bad. The southern kings of Judah started with Rehoboam, Solomon's son, and will continue down to Zedekiah, 20 kings. Actually, 19 kings and 1 queen, and that's important for us to remember. Of those 20 rulers, 8 were good, 12 were bad. Now, please, if you can, take a look at the sheet that I gave you that lists all of these kings, because we're going to need that as we move through this lesson. The key people in the book of 2 Kings are, number 1, Elijah. And again, he appears really only in the first 2 chapters. He is going to ascend to heaven in a whirlwind, and God is going to take him. He doesn't die. And then his successor is Elisha. Elisha, he is known for his miracles, like healing Naaman's leprosy and raising the Shunammite woman. I made a list here of some of the other things that he did. He multiplied the widow's oil. He fed 100 men with just a small amount of food. He blinded the entire Aramean army and led them to their capture. He even raised a man from the dead after he was dead. Someone threw a dead body into his open grave, and the minute the body touched his bones, he came to life. And then we have Jehu. He was anointed one of the kings of Israel. He is about in the middle of the pack. If you'll find the crown and look straight over, you'll see Jehu. He's anointed as king of Israel, and while he isn't a good king by any stretch of the imagination, one of the things that he does that's really good is he eradicates Ahab's dynasty and Jezebel. And that brings us really to another individual that I probably should have included in this chart, and that was Ahab. Ahab is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, looks like the 7th king of Israel. Ahab and his wife Jezebel were evil, evil individuals, and they cause a lot of hardship. It's Jehu who is going to eradicate Ahab's dynasty. And then we have two more kings, Hezekiah and Josiah. Of the 8 kings that were good, Hezekiah and Josiah were the 2 kings that were the most righteous. Hezekiah was the king of Judah who implemented religious reforms and trusted God during the Assyrian siege. Assyria and Babylon are the 2 countries that are going to enter in and cause both Israel and Judah to go into exile. The Assyrians are going to lead Israel into exile in about 722 BC. Fortunately, because of Hezekiah, Assyria is not able to defeat the southern kingdom of Judah. And then we have King Josiah. He is another reforming king of Judah who restores the worship of God. He also is able to find the book of the law, which was probably Deuteronomy, and led for a great revival in the land. Now, of the kings of Judah that were good, and I'll give those to you real quickly here. First of all, there was Asa, and let me pull back up the picture, if I can, of all the kings of Israel and Judah. The first one on the right-hand side there was Asa. He instituted religious reforms and removed all of the idols. Then there was Jehoshaphat, who strengthened Judah spiritually and militarily, seeking God's guidance. And then we have down a couple, Joash. He restored the temple, though his faith wavered later in his life. And then we have Amaziah, who initially followed God, but later turned away. Then there is Uzziah, and Uzziah is the king that is mentioned in Isaiah's prophecy, and we'll get to that when we cover Isaiah. But he began well. He strengthened Judah, but began to falter in his later reign due to pride. Then there's Jotham, and Jotham maintained faithfulness and avoided his father's mistakes. And then we have to jump all the way down to Hezekiah. He was one of the most faithful kings. He trusted God during the Assyrian siege. He enacted major reforms. And finally, there is the young man Josiah. Josiah takes the reins when he is 7 years old, and this is a very important story that we're going to get to in just a moment here. He restores the temple. He rediscovers the book of the law. He organizes a wonderful Passover celebration. He is one of the finest kings in this latter period. All right. Then I want to share with you a story that is carried out in the book of 2 Kings, a fascinating story. The Davidic line was almost wiped out. Now, I want to remind you that all of the kings in the area of Judah, all right, all of the Judean kings were from the line of David. Now, this is important because it is through this line that the Messiah is going to come. The Messiah is going to be a descendant of King David. And so it is important that the Davidic line is able to continue. But the Davidic line was almost completely wiped out. As I said, all the kings of Judah are from the line of David. So here's the story. On our list of kings of Judah, you will notice at number 7, we have a king or queen whose name is Athaliah. Now, Athaliah was a woman, so she was the only queen of Judah. Athaliah was the daughter of King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. I told you they wouldn't go away. All right. Now, what happened was that King Ahab and Queen Jezebel offered their daughter in marriage to one of the kings of Judah. And it was an attempt on their part to reunite the tribes. And so she married Jehoram. Now, it's important for us to realize that upon Jehoram's death, their son, a man by the name of Ahaziah, became king. He was the 6th king of Judah. Now, when King Ahaziah was killed, Athaliah, and boy, this gets really confusing with all these names, Athaliah, the woman, the daughter of King Ahab, seized power and declared herself queen, breaking the tradition of all male rulers in Judah. Now, she then, in order to secure her rule and make sure she had no competition, she attempted to eliminate all potential heirs to the Davidic lineage. She even orchestrated a massacre of the royal family. However, in spite of her best efforts, they were thwarted when Joash, her grandson, was an infant, and he was secretly saved by Jehoiada, the priest. Now, Athaliah's reign ends in revolt. She's overthrown. And they bring the young boy, Josiah, out at the age of 7, and he is crowned king, and he restores the Davidic dynasty. Satan had done his best to destroy the lineage of the Messiah, but God had protected Josiah. So, we have got that story, and we can see that Ahab's influence affected not only the kingdom of Israel, but also Judah. Here's a quick slide to kind of help you picture all of this. Both King Ahab and Jehoshaphat were contemporaries with each other. Then you have Jehoshaphat's son, Jehoram, and he marries Athaliah from King Ahab. Then they have a son, Ahaziah, who is Jehoram and Athaliah's son. Then Athaliah becomes the king upon Ahaziah's death. And finally, and that should read Josiah there instead of Joash, forgive me, that's a mistake. And he eventually takes control. Now, let's talk about some of the key topics of this particular book. There were a lot of miracles. We saw the miracles of Elijah and Elisha showcasing God's power. We also see throughout this book the consequences of turning away from God. It leads the northern kingdom of Israel to fall into captivity. They are going to be overrun by the Assyrians in 722 BC. The people are going to be taken into exile, and really, as a nation, it's going to be destroyed. And then Judah is going to be taken into exile by the Babylonians. And that's where we are eventually going to meet Daniel and some of the others. We're going to see prophets like Elijah and Elisha delivering God's message and offering warnings of judgment. We're going to see reform in the book of 2 Kings, like Hezekiah and Josiah's attempt to restore faithfulness to God. There are a number of prophets that are mentioned in the book of 1 and 2 Kings. And they're going to warn and rebuke both Israel and Judah. For example, in 1 Kings, we had Samuel. We had Nathan, who advises David and supports Solomon's ascension to the throne. We have Ahijah the Silonite, who delivers prophecies concerning Jeroboam and the division of the kingdom. Then we've got Elijah, we've got Elisha, we've got Jonah. In 2 Kings 14:25, during the reign of Jeroboam, Jonah is going to be mentioned. And again, we'll read more about him when we look at his book. In 2 Kings chapter 19 and 20, Isaiah is going to make an appearance, and he's going to advise King Hezekiah during the Assyrian crisis, and he delivers a message of hope and judgment. And again, we'll look at Isaiah in detail when we study his book. Now, in addition to the prophets that are mentioned in 1st and 2nd Kings, there are also a lot of prophets that prophesied during this period of time. They're not mentioned by name in the books, but we know that they were prophesying during the period of time of 1st and 2nd Kings. Some of these you're going to recognize as the minor prophets. For example, there is Obadiah. He likely ministered around the time of Judah's fall, and he provided a prophecy against Edom, and his work aligns with the book of 2nd Kings. Joel is thought to have ministered in Judah during a period of calamity, possibly overlapping the reigns of kings like Joash and later. Then we have Micah, who was a contemporary of Isaiah, and Micah prophesied during the reign of Jotham and Uzziah and Hezekiah and warned of judgment while offering hope. Amos, the shepherd prophet, is going to provide instructions to Jeroboam. He also delivers sharp rebukes to Israel and against social and spiritual corruption. Hosea was another prophet to Israel during the reigns of a number of the northern kings, and his messages of God's love and betrayal resonates with this period. Nahum ministers later during the decline of Assyria, and he prophesies Assyria's fall, and he tends to complement the period of time during Hezekiah's reign. And then Zephaniah was a prophet of Judah during King Josiah's reign, and he also called for repentance and anticipated divine restoration. So within this book, we have not only almost 40 rulers, most of which are bad, but few glimpses of good kings that tried to do the right thing. But eventually the sin of the people and the rulers won out, and God allowed both Israel and Judah to be carried off into exile. That's the big picture of 2 Kings. It's a period of time of exile. 722 was the exile of Israel, and Judah was taken into exile about 586. That's probably when it ended. And they were taken to Babylon, and they'll be there for 70 years. During the Babylonian captivity, we're going to see a number of other prophets like Daniel, and then eventually we will have them returning from the exile, which we'll get to in a little bit. This book, 2 Kings, serves as a sobering reminder of the importance of faithfulness to God and the consequences of spiritual rebellion. We need to take a lesson from these books. God judges us when we choose to abandon him, when we choose to go our own way. Put God first in your life. Let him direct your steps, and then the blessings can come. That's the big story of the book of 2 Kings. Well, I hope you found this to be interesting. I want to thank you for being with us today. I hope this has been helpful, and I want to remind you that we're going to cover this same period again when we look at the book of 1st and 2nd Chronicles. It's going to cover this same period of time. So if you've missed anything, hang on. We'll get a chance to review it a little bit again. Again, let me encourage you to go to my YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/@ Jim Schaefer 8933 /playlists, and you will see all of my playlist, all of my Bible studies in various categories. For example, this series is Understanding the Old Testament. I do want to remind you again, the date is coming very quickly. There's going to be a change in policy on Facebook, and they are only going to leave up my live Bible studies for 1 month from the date they're delivered, and then they'll all be removed. So if you ever want to go back and see them, you won't be able to do so. You'll have to see them on YouTube, which, to be honest with you, is a lot simpler and easier to find than it is to scroll back through Facebook. So I encourage you to go there, subscribe, ask to be notified when a new Bible study is dropped so that you can be aware of whenever we introduce something new. Again, thank you much. Hope you have a wonderful day. I appreciate you watching. I want you to know we're praying for you. Stay on Facebook and I'll interact with you for a little bit. Thanks again for watching.